That's fine.
Oh, yeah.
Ready? Thank you. I will now call to order the regular city council meeting of May 8th, 2023. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access to the meeting is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Meetings are broadcast on Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Leidy,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Luke Manharamasa. Here. Councilmember Long.
Here.
Councilmember Hadamio.
Here.
Councilmember Kondo.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we begin tonight, the City of North Glen would like to extend our condolences to the family of Heidi Stonehawker, who passed away on April 21st. Heidi spent her early childhood on the family farm in North Glen, which is now the Stonehawker Historic Site, and more commonly known as the Stonehawker Farmhouse. After relocating the farm to Brighton, the Stonehawker family continued to support the work of the North Glen Historic Preservation Commission, which has carefully and lovingly worked to restore and preserve the farmhouse where Heidi spent her early years. The Stonehawker family will have a prominent place in North Glen's history, and we were saddened to hear about Heidi's passing. Services for Heidi were held earlier today at the Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic Church, and our thoughts are with her mother, Roswitha, her siblings, extended family, and friends. All right, moving into tonight's agenda. City Manager Geyer, are there any responses to resident inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor. Thank you.
Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Nope, I don't see any. Okay, we have multiple proclamations tonight. There are actually 5. So if you would like to join me down front and stay as long as you are able. I get my glasses because I learned my lesson.
Yeah, the pregnant one's fine. It's the old lady. Thank you. Today is a slightly bad day. I feel better.
Hello, good evening. Okay, our first one tonight. Do we have Christina, is it Semino? Semino? Yeah, come on up. From the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board to accept our first proclamation. Come on up. Oh, where are my glasses? Whereas the month of May is nationally known as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, May was chosen to commemorate the arrival of the first Japanese immigrants to the United States on May 7, 1843, and also honors the anniversary of the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad on May 10, 1869, which was constructed by the difficult and dangerous work of 20,000 Chinese immigrant workers and pioneers. And whereas Asian American Islander Desi American APIDA, APIDA, Heritage Month is a celebration of Asians, Southeast Asians, South Asians, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders in the United States. I said that wrong. APIDA, maybe. Encompasses people from all of the Asian continent India, and the Pacific Islands of Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. And whereas today there are over 20 million Asian Americans that trace their roots to more than 20 countries, each with their own unique histories, cultures, languages, and norms. While this diverse group is often treated as a monolith, significant and important differences exist, and we recognize the vibrant cultures and rich heritage of all. And whereas, despite APITA, is that how we say it? Is that how you say it? Okay. Be disrespectful. People's contributions to this country, we continue to see racism, harassment, anti-Asian sentiment, and hate crimes against these communities. And we must recommit to fighting prejudice towards people of all races, cultures, and nationalities by eliminating harmful social attitudes and stereotypes and prioritizing their continued equity and inclusion in society. And whereas the City of North Glen acknowledges the determination, hard work, and perseverance of Asian American people and is proud to honor their significant contributions to all facets of the United States as the economy, education, government, the arts, law enforcement, military, literature, science, sports, and technology. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Asian Pacific Islander Desi American Heritage Month in the City of North Glen, and call upon all residents to celebrate the culture, diversity, and resiliency of all Americans with Asian and Pacific Islander ancestry. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, that's 8th day of May, 2023. So I'm going to hand it over to Christina. Do you have anything you would like to add?
On behalf of the Dice Board, I want to thank you guys for this proclamation. And honestly, for the City of North Glen, one thing we see every day is that we are a city that does not tolerate discrimination and hate, and we really appreciate things like this being passed for you guys and really just appreciate your support. So thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, next time you stay there, we'll make it.
It's okay, I like to take the whole.
Good idea, you can sit down. There, perfect. I figure by the time the lecture goes around, we'll have it down perfect. Just about. All right, 1, 2, 3. Last one. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
See you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you so much.
I'm good.
Oh, thank you. That was a good choice.
Thank you, I'm having a rough day.
Or no, it's okay. It's just, I'm glad you're with us. Okay, Mental Health Awareness Month. We don't have anyone accepting officially, but I'd like to read the proclamation anyway. Whereas nearly 58 million American adults, more than 1 in 5, live with a mental health condition. And whereas mental health impacts a person's emotional, social, environmental, financial, and overall well-being with significant disparities among racially and ethnically diverse communities. And whereas suicide is the second leading cause of death among youth aged 10 to 14, and the third leading cause of death among those aged 15 to 24 in the United States. And whereas we must recognize the importance of education, treatment, and support for those experiencing an emotional crisis or mental health conditions to avoid devastating outcomes such as suicide, substance abuse, disability, unemployment, and homelessness. And whereas people with mental health conditions are overrepresented in our nation's jails and prisons, and mental health care reduces the likelihood that an individual will be involved in the criminal justice system. And whereas taking small steps to improve your mental health can have a huge impact on your overall well-being and mental health treatment. Therapy, medication, self-care have made recovery a reality for most people experiencing mental health conditions. And whereas we must work together to overcome and eliminate the discrimination and stigma that may deter individuals from seeking consistent support and adequate mental health treatment. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim May 2023 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of North Glen and call upon residents and organizations to increase their awareness and understanding of mental health and the need for appropriate and equitable access to mental health services for all people. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 8th day of May, 2023. Does anyone on council want to add anything or speak to this?
I just wanted to say that I'm really proud of us for putting this out. Mental health is a huge issue in the avenues that I'm currently volunteering in for homelessness, drug addiction, just about everything my fingers touch. Mental health is a huge issue. Unfortunately, our government has, I won't go on a tirade, has reduced benefits that hospitals and facilities can receive, and in some hospitals, they don't even accept mental health patients. So it's really important to acknowledge this, and the reason that I'm acknowledging it is that a lot of our addicts or homeless that we see around North Glen are actually mental illnesses that they went into an addiction to cover up on. So it's really important that we continue to press our state to allow more services for mental health, and that we are patient with our mental health people.
Diana, do you want a photo?
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thanks. Wow.
Okay, very much related, as Councilmember Brown just said. Our next one is National Fentanyl Awareness Day. And I think we're going to have Councilmember Brown accept this proclamation after I read it. I appreciate her bringing it forward. Whereas National Fentanyl Awareness Day aims to raise awareness about the dangers of fentanyl, an odorless, tasteless, and extremely potent synthetic opioid, which continues to drive the overdose epidemic in the United States. And whereas fentanyl is involved in more deaths of Americans under 50 than any other cause of death, including heart disease, cancer, homicide, suicide, and other accidents. And whereas illicit fentanyl is used to make fake prescription pills disguised as Oxycontin, Percocet, and Xanax, and is also found in common street drugs like cocaine, MDMA, and heroin. Fake pills have been found in all 50 states, and fentanyl is often consumed unknowingly by users. And whereas fentanyl is involved in more American youth deaths than heroin, meth, cocaine, benzos, and prescription drugs combined, and only testing can tell which pills contained a lethal amount of fentanyl, which can be as small as a few grains of sand. And whereas instead of focusing on stigmatizing drug use, we must take action to emphasize the risks of encountering illicitly manufactured fentanyl, learn the signs of an overdose, and be prepared to respond to overdoses to prevent losing more people to this epidemic. And whereas opioid use and unintentional overdoses affect all ages and communities, and addressing and preventing non-prescription drug use is a responsibility we all must share. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim May 9th, 2023, as National Fentanyl Awareness Day in the City of North Glen, and urge everyone to learn more about the dangers of fentanyl and share the risks associated with using non-medical drugs and fake prescription pills with your family, friends, and loved ones to prevent more deaths from occurring. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 8th day of May, 2023.
I have two this time.
Yes, you do.
Sorry, my back is acting up really bad.
That's okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. if you don't know me, for any residents that don't know, my passion and my drive is addiction, homelessness, and our people in Colorado as a whole. I work hand in hand with many parents, many spouses, friends, children who have addicts in their family, and I work with addicts themselves. I do this all during my volunteer time, so I am deeply ingrained in this community. It's important to note that in 2022, there were 106, fentanyl deaths nationwide. In the first 4 months of this year, there have been 70,000 deaths from fentanyl overdose. And as the mayor mentioned, fentanyl can be hidden inside drugs. The deal with fentanyl, and I could go on for hours and I promise I won't. The deal with fentanyl is when they are pressing it into these drugs, it'll look just like a normal drug. Sometimes it won't, but most of the time I've seen it as a normal drug. And these people are taking it without knowing that there is no way that there is fentanyl in there and no way to equally measure the fentanyl that is in the pill. So, little story, a friend of mine's sister died. She was out, she split a blue with her boyfriend. He did not die, she overdosed. The fentanyl was all on her side. So she died from fentanyl poisoning. My granddaughter's father died of a fentanyl overdose 1 year, 10 months, and 3 days from today. That's when I jumped in with 2 feet. It's important that we educate people. A lot of people don't know the signs of an overdose. And a lot of addicts will not report overdoses because they're afraid of getting in trouble by the police department. That's overall in this country. I'm currently working with Adams County 12 and the AG's office to bring education to the forefront. This state is considerably behind some of our other states in the education that we put out on drug abuse. Right now, we're spending a lot of money on smoking cessation, and thank you very much, but I'd like to see the same coverage for our addicts. They may not be watching it, but you'll learn what the symptoms are. A lot of parents who have kids that have died from fentanyl, the overwhelming message that I get is that we had no idea they were even doing drugs. You know, I was at a meeting last week in Lakewood and a woman brought in a kit. That's where they keep all their stuff. You know, it can have their needles, their tie-off, razor blade, anything they need, whether they're gonna smoke it, their pipe's usually in there. She opened it up and asked me what it was. I told her to close it up immediately with a napkin and drop it off at the Lakewood Police Department. Because fentanyl is just that deadly, that it can kill you. And unfortunately, some people are trying to take it in its purest form, measuring out it themselves. Just like the mayor had said, it's available in a lot of street drugs, but currently we're starting to see it in marijuana that is not sold by the dispensaries. These are private sales, so we're seeing it in that area. It's very important that we educate ourselves as people, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, so that we're aware if there's a problem. Right now, there is no one central location that a parent can go to in the state of Colorado and they want to get their kid into rehab. The normal waiting period for a child to get into rehab is 3 weeks. That's from the moment that they declare that they want to go into rehab, they call, and they find it. Kicker is they have to continue to use until they get to the center. So parents are forced to sit on their children, watch them use. I had a friend of mine whose son had a 3-week wait. At week 2, what did he do? He went right back on the streets because she could not control him that long. So along with mental health, we need more beds for our recovering addicts. I think it's important that you all educate yourself. I've seen 3 overdoses in the last 2 weeks. So I think it's really important that we take the time, and again, as humans, to be able to recognize an overdose. My motto in all my meetings and what I speak to is if I can save 1 life, then I have done what I can do. I can't save everybody, but I sure do try. Thank you. Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you. My bodyguard.
There you go. Yeah, step in. It's fine. As long as you're close to somebody. It just looks weird. It's like there's a phantom or something. Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot. I don't want to stay.
Okay, our next one is for National Law Enforcement Memorial Week and National Peace Officers Memorial Day. So if I could get all of our special guests to join us up here, please. Chief, you gotta come too. It's okay. We're missing one. Okay, well, that's fair. Keep your eyes open. I like it. Whereas the President of the United States, Congress, and the General Assembly of the State of Colorado have designated May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week of May 14th through the 20th as National Law Enforcement Memorial Week. And whereas during Law Enforcement Memorial Week and on Peace Officers Memorial Day, we honor those officers who made the ultimate sacrifice while performing their sworn duty. And whereas 26,291 law enforcement officers in the United States have been killed in the line of duty since 1776. And whereas in 2022, 224 law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty nationwide. 2 officers and 1 police service dog were killed in the line of duty in Colorado. Police officer Dylan Vakoff, Arvada Police Department. Deputy Sheriff Andrew Peary, El Paso County Sheriff's Office. And K-9 Jinx of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. And whereas the city of North Glen tragically lost one of their own officers, Corporal Edgar E.B. Raines Jr., who was killed in the line of duty 39 years ago on May 30th, 1984. And whereas it is fitting and appropriate for all residents to join together to commemorate police officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their community, helping to preserve the rights and security of all residents. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, hereby proclaim May 14th through 20th, 2023, as National Law Enforcement Memorial Week in the City of North Glen. I further proclaim May 15th, 2023, as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in the City of North Glen in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 8th day of May, 2023. Do you have anything to add? Would you like the microphone?
I'd just like to say thank you to the city, to the residents, city council, mayor, and I just appreciate all the support that we have in North Glen, all the way from our chief, from everybody that we have within our city. So we appreciate this recognition.
No, you do. Actually, I was gonna have you come stand on this side between the two police officers. That'd be perfect. It's always a trick not to like focus on the podium, you know? I'm like, I don't want the podium in it. All right, 1, 2, 3. And. All right, one of these should work. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm proud to be here, especially as I'm so proud to be here.
You did that. You do know that, right?
Go for now.
It was your fault. See ya. Yeah. Good to see you. Yeah. Where's the cone costume? Oh, not tonight. Yeah.
All right, fine. Okay. All right. One more proclamation tonight. National Public Service Recognition Week. Who is accepting for tonight? Oh, Tamra, come on up. Our Director of Human Resources and Chief Diversity Officer is going to accept this on behalf of all of our employees. Thank you. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels doing work that benefits the public. And whereas public servants work to bring people closer to their government, help uphold our democracy and open processes, and increase the quality of life for residents. Whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, healthcare professionals, and others, risk their lives each day in service to the people of the United States. And whereas public servants include inspectors, social workers, accountants, clerks, educators, public transportation workers, technology professionals, administrators, planners, parks workers, laborers, analysts, sanitation workers, and countless other occupations. And whereas, while some public servants are very visible in the community, others work behind the scenes to ensure that services are available to residents and processes are accessible to the public. And whereas, without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of North Glen, Colorado, do hereby proclaim May 7th through the 13th, 2023, as National Public Service Recognition Week in the City of North Glen, and encourage all residents to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of dedicated government employees at all levels. Dated at North Glen, Colorado, this 8th day of May, 2023. Before I hand it over, there are so many in our city that are absolutely exceptional. I think everybody that works for the city of North Glen is fantastic. So I know that all of City Council and myself, we appreciate everyone, but I'm going to let you shout them out too.
Before I do that, so being a public servant is really a privilege, and all of you are public servants also, so thank you. I'd just like to thank you, Mayor and City Council, for this acknowledgement, for this proclamation, and I know I speak on behalf of all our employees in saying that, and so thank you. We really appreciate this week being National Public Service Recognition Week.
That's great. There you go.
Hope you get mad at me. Don't be shy. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Again. All right. Thank you.
No, we just have a huge celebration. Isaiah, come on up. Come on up. You can stand right here. These are always so fun for me, but also so sad because it means you're growing up and moving on. Okay, take that. All right. So Isaiah has been a member of Youth Commission for 4 years and has served as a treasurer and board member. He was inspired to join the Youth Commission to take a more involved part in local government, learn about municipal politics, and help better the city of North Glen for the future. Isaiah has been an avid volunteer for community events, helping with Safe Street Halloween, and engaging with the public alongside the Dice Board at the AAPI booth at Food Truck Carnival. Isaiah will graduate from Horizon High School this spring. Congratulations! Do you have anything you want to say?
Just thank you for this opportunity to volunteer for Northland.
Any youth commission people want to say anything? No? Okay. Well, I know, absolutely, and I have witnessed his volunteerism. So friendly, so kind. Really, you're just going to be missed. So we're so happy to celebrate you. What's next for you?
I'm going to lead school business and ski boulder.
Nice, congrats. That's fantastic. Good for you.
Are you okay? Because I'm not moving.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Thanks.
I'm so proud.
Thanks for all your help.
Yeah, you quit laughing down there.
Okay, moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. Joanna, has anyone signed up to speak to council?
Yes, we have one person on the list, Tom Lampo.
Excellent, welcome. Please state your name and address and provide your comments to council.
All right. Tom Lampo, 3951 Jackson Way. It's good to be back here, thank you. Hope you and your families are doing well. I'm here to pray for this meeting, the city of North Glen, and all of our governments. First, though, in March, our banking system was shaking, and the response from our government was deceptive. Since the first failure, depositors have been removing dollars from the banking system or moving money from smaller banks to larger banks. In March, First Republic Bank lost $100 billion in deposits. Last week, they failed. The shaking continues. The response again was deceptive, telling us the banking system is safe and sound. It's not. We never fully recovered from 2007, and that can was just kicked down the road. The road can't go on forever. Although we are told the FDIC will insure deposits up to $250,000, that insurance money is not here. In 1971, the dollar was taken off the gold standard. In 1973, the dollar became the petrodollar, and our government adopted unsustainable fiscal and monetary policies. Recently, nations have started revolting against the petrodollar, resulting in oil being bought and sold in other currencies. Our financial system is not sound, and the petrodollar is not safe. Let's invite God here to be with us. Heavenly Father, you are the living God. We invite you here to preside over this gathering and all our governments. We are not perfect, but we try. You have placed elected people to lead us and make decisions. I lift them up to you and ask that you give them the wisdom and understanding of Solomon. In 1 Kings 4:29-30, it states, "And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding beyond measure, and breadth of mind like the sand of the seashore, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt. So touch our leaders with wisdom and understanding." And Father, we all want the best community. Our government can impact our community, but our government is not the community. The community is we the people. We determine the type of community we live in. We determine our community. Our community is every member, and sometimes it's difficult to find commonality. What we need is your perfect love. In 1 Corinthians 13:4-8, you tell us what perfect love is. You state that love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. Give us your love and make our community the best community. In your precious and holy name I pray.
Amen.
Amen. Finally, Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Thank you. You guys have a nice night.
Thank you.
Say something really quick. I just want to tell you how much I enjoy your prayers.
Thank you.
They touch my heart,
Thank you.
and I just really do enjoy them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. We'll move into communications, starting with Ward 1. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to say that I took my 19-month-old son to see the goats in the open field. He is now obsessed with goats. He carries his little goat toy around. We have to look at all the goat pictures. So very into goats now. And it was awesome. There were so many people at that event. It was awesome to see. And the photos that I sent, everyone was very shocked about how many goats we had. So it was very, very cool. Yeah, I think that's about it for my communications update for you. But yeah, I would love to see that program continue if we can and potentially, so, because it was a hit.
Awesome, thank you. Councilmember Walker?
Thank you. Just want to thank Mr. Tom for his prayers tonight. I did attend Law Day on Friday and celebrate with Adams County's finest. It was an honor to be among them, celebrating many wonderful officers across Adams County who keep us safe. And then I'd also like to address some of the concerns from residents concerning Pride Fest, and I'm not speaking about the misinformation that's being found online, but I just want to let the residents know that the legitimate concerns are being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Walker, because I know your phone has been ringing much like mine. I actually had a pretty busy week. I also saw the goats. I am also experiencing the same thing, but I'm getting with, no, why don't we have a goat in our yard? So that's not happening. We have 2 dogs. On Tuesday of last week, I met with the Youth Commission. The purpose of meeting with the Youth Commission had to do with basically where I'm going after I term out in December and what footprint we can leave in regards to addiction. So we went through some scenarios. They have fantastic ideas of things that we could do. Like I mentioned in my speaking about fentanyl, there is not a central link to actually, so that me as a parent, okay? I have a child, I don't know what to do. We have no crisis lines, and this is in Adams County and North Glen, obviously. Adams County 12 does not have resources for their parents or their high school students. So in meeting, it all started with one little meeting where we talked about common goals. And then the whole group meeting, we went over what my platform is, where we're moving, and how they can help. They were all very enthusiastic. It is something that they are going to pick up on. My job for the summer is to build the platform. I've spoken to Heidi Williams with the AG's office. I've spoken to Adams County, Chris Godowski with Superintendent of Schools for, what are we, Adams County 12? Yeah. And some of the instances that they brought up for what's happening in their schools have to be addressed before the new school year starts. So by bringing them into this and getting the ideas from the actual youth, I must say that it's wonderful. They are, I think I know a lot, but they have the wherewithal to say, this is what we need to do. We need to build a link on the websites. We need to do this. We need to do that. So they'll be helping us get that out after they come back from summer, because they don't meet during the summer. So I have asked that although I am not the council liaison, that I be able to keep my finger on the pulse of this to make sure that it goes in the direction that not only I want, but that they want too. So it's all exciting to me, very exciting. So the other thing I did, in an effort to be fully transparent with my other council members, I have met with residents from Ward 3, Ward 4, and Ward 2, possibilities of running for office. I've been in public office for 8 years. My husband was in before. We have a 20-year relationship with the city of Northland. A lot of people will reach out to me. I've been asked for endorsements, and I'm not making any decisions on endorsements at this time, but I am meeting with your residents and telling them how things are going on city council, listening to what they're saying, and helping them determine how to do their campaign. I worked with Jay when he ran for council, and I think that shows a pretty good success record. So I'm excited that they're reaching out to me. I've eaten at the New Mexican restaurant now 5 times. So no, 6. That's beyond awesome. So I want to be transparent in case they reach out to you afterwards and want to have a conversation with you about your experiences with your ward and what's going on, and do we, should they, basically the question is, what would I do? How do I do it? Processes, and they've been, Heather has had 1 or 2 reach out to her directly. And after I finish speaking with them, I have them speak with Heather. That's my goal, to have them speak with Heather and go over, anything I might have missed. Our candidates are very interested in city council right now. So I think it's a great opportunity to educate our residents. But I just wanted to disclose that. Saturday, I took my 2 granddaughters and my daughter to see The Descendants. It was amazing. Those kids are so talented. I had a friend of mine who was starring in it, and his son was starring in it. And it's his last performance with the Northland Youth Theater. He'll be moving up into adulthood next. They were fantastic. I enjoyed every minute of it. We've made our plans to go see things throughout the year now, and I would just encourage anybody and everybody to go see these very talented kids. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Jaramillo.
That's for,
Thank you,
I'm
Mary.
sorry.
Do you have anything else?
I do. I forgot to add something. My second brain pointed it out to me.
Go ahead.
It's actually pointed to Heather. Heather, has Safeway made any commitments to meeting again? The reason that I was a few minutes late today is that I got stopped by some residents that live on my street about the Safeway situation. And then to go further into the things that we talked about. The employee that had a gun drawn on him in front of Safeway as he was asking the homeless to move on. Things like that. And the overall homelessness and addiction problem there. They've spotted, I got a call about an addict shooting up at Safeway. Unfortunately, my mind was still at what had happened a few days earlier with a gun being pulled on the employee who works in Ward 2 or lives in Ward 2. So I thought that they were shooting up, bang, bang, bang. And I may have made a call to 911 that really didn't need to go. But I did call back and apologize, and hopefully somebody did go over and check on the gentleman because it sounded like he had overdosed. Have you heard anything, Heather?
Yes, Councilmember Brown, I did hear back last week from Magali, who the mayor and I met with Safeway last December. And she responded that Safeway has increased their undercover security guard coverage. They have secured their bathrooms and looked at their lighting strategy. They've also floated guard coverage. We have floated guard coverage there, and starting at the end of May, we're implementing a new guard strategy. I've not had an opportunity to connect with her to find out more about what that means. She says that they've made great strides with the steps they've taken, and they'll continue to assess the situation. So my next step was going to be to talk with her about potentially having her come speak with council, or hold some type of community meeting so residents can learn more about the strategies underway. Chief May and I have also talked about the possibility of doing bike patrol, officers on bike patrol this summer when available, when they can offer overtime slots to do that. So Allison, being that she's new, we're also gonna try to get a meeting scheduled with Magali So that way we can connect her with Allison and then talk about some bigger picture improvements that could be made. So I hope to do that this week, if
Okay.
not next week. And that's the update that I have so far. So they are doing more to increase guard coverage, but I've communicated with her about the unsafe way perception and phrase that's being used about the shopping center.
Okay, I respectfully disagree with her since the 2 instances that I spoke about happened last week. Okay, so they really haven't, and I would like to suggest that Jay and I also be included in conversations with her, just so that, I know that you have a lot of complaints, just like me, just so that we're staying ahead of it. I went to Safeway on Saturday, and again, we've been in this community for 25 years, and the employees are upset. They have probably a woman my age responsible for bringing the carts in when the store is closing, and she's not doing it anymore. She refuses, and I don't blame her. There's no reason to send a woman out by herself into that parking lot when the store is closing. So that's another one of my things. So just let Jay and I know when you're gonna have those conversations, just so we're aware of what we can say to people. Okay,
Will do.
thank you.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, Mayor.
No, that was a good one. Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor. Right, so I'll resume. On April 26th, I attended a meeting with Adams County Commissioner Lynn Baca and the Rocky Mountain Foundation leadership regarding the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration that's going to be happening the second half of Hispanic Heritage Month in October. So that's something cool that they asked me as a member of the community, but also as someone who's been president of the Journey Through Our Heritage program in Denver. It's something that I've been passionate about, trying to bring more cultural celebration for the Hispanic community here in Adams County. So that's going very great. And also the next day at 7:30 in the morning, I attended on April 27th, I attended the North Area Transportation Alliance meeting, NADA. So they were here a few weeks ago. So you kind of received the rundown, Zero Fare for Better Air is coming again. So that'll be great, going to Rockies games and awesome stuff like that downtown. So I encourage everybody to utilize our RTD. And then also on May 4th, I attended the ribbon cuttings for Los Dos Potrillos, and it was really cool. My dad had some of his college buddies come together from CU Boulder, and they all met up, and you know, it was pretty cool. So they're really proud of to have some really quality restaurants coming to North Glen. So that's it was great to have them have their little mini reunion here in North Glen. And I also attended the ribbon cutting for Vivid Beauty. And it's also great to see another Hispanic-owned business here in North Glen. And very interesting stuff they have going on. I told them they do a different kind of sculpting than I do. I was an artist, so I was like, hey, that. So definitely look into Vivid Beauty. You know, summertime's coming up. We want to look our best. So. Also, May 6th, I attended the Stonehawker 120th birthday celebration, and I wanted to, first off, just to express my condolences to the Stonehawker family for their loss, and also, it's great that we have that gem here in North Glen. It's a blast from the past. Doesn't feel like you're in North Glen overseeing Thornton to the east, so it's really cool that we have that historically preserved home here in North Glen. And and also May 3rd, the North Glen Arts and Humanities Foundation had their meeting, and good news, summer concerts are coming soon, so that's some good news coming up. So you can look forward to that in the next, it's already next month, coming in June. So all right, check it out. There's a wide variety of music, but also movies that'll be featured too. So bring the whole family, and we're excited for the warm weather and to kick off the fun season here in North Glen.
There is a Led Zeppelin tribute band.
Yeah.
That I think we should go to.
That sounds awesome. Yeah,
I know.
and you can. What's that?
I think you should.
That would be cool, yeah, so,
I'll sing with you.
right on. Well, looking forward to that and hope to see you all there.
Thank you. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 25th, the Diversity Board met. We had a presentation by the Sustainability Task Force, and so we're going to look into some ways that we can work together with them. We also got some more organization about the Pride event, which will be on June 10th. And I do want to say, we want to make sure that all our residents feel accepted and welcome and that their ideas are heard. And I have had several residents tell me how happy they are that the Pride event is coming back to North Bend. So they were also working on some kind of a sign to put up that North Bend businesses could put up to show how they support diversity in our community. And we're also working on a listing of minority-owned businesses in North Bend. And then on May 3rd, I attended the Adams County dinner with our city manager, Heather Geyer. And they presented how they're spending the ARPA funds in our county. And I think that it seemed to me that the focus was primarily on homelessness and mental health. So maybe we'll see some benefits from that we can make use of. May 5th was ribbon cutting for Happy Dumpling. And it was a really good experience. Delicious food, a fun place to go. So I know I'll be back there. And then May 6th, I was also at the Stonehawker Farmhouse for the 120th year birthday. And I know that the history is really cool because I was standing on the porch and just trying to imagine what it would look like to look out 120 years ago. No houses. It was kind of, hard to imagine because it's surrounded by houses now. But that is a gem of North Bend that we need to hang on to. That's it for me. Thank you.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I have an announcement regarding the North Metro Fire Rescue District election. There was about 1,400 ballots counted or cast, and I was among the top 3 recipients, so I believe unofficially they'll validate the election results here on the 11th. I will be representing the city, not only as city liaison, but also a member on the board. I would like to thank my colleagues here on the days. I know that you've mentioned in a number of forums my candidacy, and I really appreciate your advocacy and support in that endeavor. I guess you can say I've finally campaigned and won an election, so really, that's nice to have that under the belt. Second of all, at the North Glen, at our rec center, the North Glen High School problem-based learning folks did this thing about meaning of patriotism. And I had roped in Mayor Pro Tem and Diana and myself to do the video to kind of kick off that project. And now they have the outputs of that. And it's in the hallway between the rec center and the theater. So I would encourage you all to take a few moments when you're there to just kind of see some of the outputs of that. It was very impressive. And I'd like to thank Mayor Pro Tem and Diana Wilson for jumping in and volunteering to do the video clip to support that project. Thursday, I have a tour lined up with Allison Moding and Dr. Goff with Murray Brown Labs. This was actually something that came out of the Christmas mixer that we did at Stonehawker last December. I know I'm really slow. But, I think this will be a nice way to help Allison continue to build relationships with businesses within the city. And then fourth item, normally I do 3, but I'm going to do 4. Would like to thank the mayor and the city staff for recognizing Asian American Pacific Islanders, DESI, and all the other acronyms that you struggled with. I would struggle myself personally, Mayor.
That was a lot.
As an Asian American, it makes me very proud to be here in the city, serving the residents as well as representing my Asian background. And today marks actually 1 year that I've been on council. So I would like to just express gratitude to all of you who have been very generous with your time, helping me hold my hand, as well as the staff. I know I've taken a lot of your time to learn about what it takes to be a good councilperson / legislator. Could not have done it without you all, so thank you for doing that.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's a fun little holiday. Councilmember Long.
Thank you. First off, I think I should share with you that Councilman Condo's being too modest. He garnered the most votes and the most votes cast in elections of the last 20 years that I can recall, 12 anyway. Anyway, congratulations, well-deserved. Number one, he'll be our North Glen representative, replacing myself and Jenny Murphy, who are term limited as of the end of this month. And I would say that he's a worthy representative for North Glen. We're looking forward to it. With his emergency background, my goodness, that's exactly what this district needs in terms of first responders. Ward 4 had its meeting, and I have to give kudos to Councilmember Shannon Lukman-Huramasa for holding my hand and guiding me through it. We were very pleased to have the response that we had, I think 60 to 65 folks. And Chief May said we probably are going to need a different venue to take everybody in that's coming. We were very, very taken away with that. And I want to hats off to Susan Baca for providing some of the most fantastic food from Saigon Basil. Chief May, Deputy Chief Garland, Kent Kisselman, City Manager Heather Geyer, and Diana Wilson all pitched in and made it a resounding success, in my opinion, the way that we handled the questions and gave the presentations. I must say, it was really well done. And again, thank you, Shannon, for being there for me. The Planning Commission met, and fortunately for us, the City Hall was approved. I asked the question, what would happen if it hadn't been approved? But be that as it may, it went through. Unanimous vote. I attended Law Day, thanks to a very gracious invite. And the Judge Brown Large was the keynote speaker. Talked about civics, civility, and collaboration. The governor came in a bit late, but he was there nonetheless, and he made the statement that he's going to make Colorado one of the 10 safest states in the United States. I also visited the goat herd a couple times. My wife is really fixated with all the little kids, both the goats and the children. And I must say, it was really hats off again to Amanda Peterson for making that happen. That was just really well done. And last but not least, I too attended the Stonehawker Farmhouse 120th anniversary. Very well done, very well done. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Lukman-Huramasa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will start off by echoing everything Councilmember Jim Long said about our Ward 4 meeting. Yes and yes and yes to all of that. Thank you to all the staff, so I won't repeat that. You said it very well. It was a great event, great questions, great attendance, great food, all of the above. So I'm pretty proud of our ward for always showing up. And I think residents really felt heard, which is very important. Let's see, between April 27th, I'll just do a little summary. Between April 27th and 28th, I attended 3 fundraisers for CASA, for Food for Hope, and for Almost Home. And I absolutely love supporting these organizations, both as a council member and personally, because I always bid and win things. I won a basketball signed by Jamal Murray. I'm very excited about that. I'm a little bit of a sports nerd, just throwing that out there. But I absolutely love all of these causes. And today I actually went to Food for Hope headquarters at Thorn Creek Church. And Darcy was there, and a bunch of other folks, and John, who's always there, and they gave me a tour. Just impromptu, gave me a tour of all of the bins and all of the sorting that was happening, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that these volunteers put in to get all this food together that will go to our schools in Northland and, you know, in surrounding counties. It's amazing. So I just want to really throw out my heart to them because they're really doing a great job. On on a day I can't remember, we had a phone call with Senator Winter, and we did not have a legislative committee meeting today. So if you are all wondering what the update is on SB 23-213, we do not know yet. That is happening allegedly today, so don't have any updates. At the time of that call, the preemptions had been removed. Since that call, they've been added back in, or the majority have been added back in. So we are kind of in the same spot that we were pretty much before. I've been told there's some flexibility, but again, until we see the final result, we have no more information for you all. That's kind of a sad update. On May 5th, I also attended the ribbon cutting for Happy Dumpling, and, congratulations to them also with the Asian American Pacific Islander Desi proclamation, because it is an Asian-owned restaurant. And good food, they gave us little samplings of dumplings, and they have Spam musubi. My husband happens to be an Asian Pacific Islander from Hawaii, and that is his specialty. So I told him we have to go there. Please support our local small businesses. I mean, they are literally the backbone of our city and wonderful, unique venues. I also attended the Stonehawker Open House. Went there for a little while and ended up staying about an hour and a half. So having a great conversation with former Mayor Joyce Downing about the history, which she loves talking about. And on my way out was able to meet the Stonehawker family. So Walt and Rose and family were there. So my condolences also go out to them and their loss, but it was really nice to meet them and chat for a little bit. I found out today that I was accepted into the Federal Advocacy Committee Group through NLC, which I had applied for, which is Public Safety and Crime Prevention. So that was pretty exciting news for me. Thank you. Yeah, there is one other Colorado council member, Brighton, I believe. So it's nice to represent Colorado. And that is all I have. Thank you very much.
I have a little bit of a list, but I'm going to try to go through it really quickly. Last week, I attended the City Summit of the Americas. That was something that the State Department decided that Denver was going to host, and it was a beautiful event. Multiple days. I went to quite a few of the sessions and the events, and it was fascinating to have conversations with city leaders in both Americas, all the Americas. It was a wonderful week. Also attended the Food for Hope Gala. I love supporting that organization, and I have had an opportunity to volunteer with them before, and it's very, very fun. It's very rewarding as well. I was happy to go to Derby Day. That's one of my favorite things. So it was just awesome. Thank you to the city for, all the work that they do with the bike giveaway and the bike derby, and then all the fish that were caught, and I love meeting the little ones that catch these really big fish. So that was fun. Upcoming, super excited that CCPP is getting started again tomorrow. So I will be attending that, and we're just excited to have that up and running. Thursday, I have a lot of fun things coming up. North Glen Middle School is celebrating 60 years. So I had North Glen Business donate hundreds of books. And so I'm going to go and give those away to middle school students, and I'm very excited to attend that event. Also excited to join all of you on Saturday for our strategic planning retreat. That'll be a full day of fun and hopefully a little socializing after that. Really quickly, I want to congratulate Heidi Williams. She will be leaving the AG's office because she was just selected as the executive director of the Metro Mayor's Caucus and managing principal of Civic Results. So very excited about that transition, well-deserved. That's a very exciting thing. So, I also wanted to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day. That's coming up. And then June 10th. So I mean, not that I need to say it publicly, but I'm very disappointed that I won't be in town for the Pride Fest. But I definitely didn't want my absence to be misunderstood. I would love to be there. I'm so excited we're doing it again in our city. I just happen to be out of town and I can't change those plans. So I was disappointed, but just know that I support DICE and all the work that they do. And I've talked to so many residents that can't wait to celebrate again in our city. They loved that we hosted it. My final thing, I believe Mayor Pro Tem was maybe a little too kind. 213 is driving me crazy. I just have to say it. So this bill that has gone back and forth, I really want to put a call out to all of our legislators so that they remember, number one, where they all came from, which was most of them municipal government. They are forgetting that. And they are also engaging in a lot of horse trading, and the governor is doing some things that I believe are not honorable when it comes to this bill. So I'm very disappointed in where we are. I'm very disappointed in some of the decisions that the people that represent us have made over the last couple of weeks and months. And I'm very worried about where we're headed with this bill. So I just needed to say that publicly. City Clerk Small, what do you have tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report tonight.
City Manager Guyer?
Thank you, Mayor. Two things this evening. Per council direction previously, I had reached out to the Adams County Public Health Department to express council's interest in moving forward with the healthy beverages initiative if it could be done voluntarily. And I had heard back, which I think I shared with council. However, they expressed that they weren't interested in doing something on a voluntary basis. I did meet with Monica Bolig, who's in charge of public affairs, last Thursday. She had reached out to me and asked if we could have a conversation. So I just wanted to let council know I reiterated council's position that we'd really like to see something on a voluntary basis, and explained council's concerns about a mandatory ordinance that would put the burden of enforcement at the local level versus the health department level. So had that conversation on Thursday. And I did want to clarify, in light of what Councilmember Brown shared, that I did have a resident reach out to me who's interested in running for council. That is very typical during election season. I'm happy to meet with any resident that would like to know more about the state of the city, our finances, the state of the strategic plan implementation. However, I do not get involved in local politics. I stay out of that. So my role in meeting with any resident who's interested in learning more about the city is simply that. And then I find that when I meet with residents, they often ask, well, how can I connect with my council members? And I help facilitate getting them your contact information. So I just wanted to clarify that, as not to be misconstrued that I'm involved in local politics. I'm not. I'm Switzerland. So, thank you.
I apologize if it came off that way, Heather. I just hand them over to you.
City Attorney Hoffman.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, and members of council. Just to follow up on what Mayor Leidy and Mayor Pro Tem Lukeman-Haramasa said about 213, I too have been spending probably a disproportionate amount of time on 213, and broke my cardinal rule and actually spent a couple days at the legislature last week. I am not a lobbyist, nor do I ever want to be one, but I was attempting to, at least for those that wanted it, provide information on its impact on local government. The session ends at midnight, and so we are, less than 5 hours away from finding out what's going on with 213, and I'm monitoring it as we speak. I've gotten texts over the past couple of hours. There is still nothing to report, but I still remain cautiously optimistic that this will end right, but we won't know till sometime in the next 4.5 hours or so. And that's all I've got.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown, I see your hand.
There was one more thing, and I apologize for not having it in there. I sent all of City Council some information on Grantham. And I would like to, in order to move forward, because you have to, like I said in my email, if it's going to take over a certain amount of Corey's team time, we have to have consent. What I've asked Corey to do, and he's the one that told me I needed to come back here, is I want him to research further the possibilities of restricting that usage in Northglenn. If you don't know what it is, I gave you links and things to go read up on it, but it's a synthetic opioid. It is made from herbs. In China, they have been taking it for years. It creates a euphoric state and pretty much mirrors what happens with heroin. So we're selling those right now in 2 or 3 of our vape shops here. And much like bath salts and synthetic marijuana made its way into the gas stations, I'd like to see this stop before it goes that far. What happens, to be really honest with you, is that a lot of times addicts will go into these stores. It's not behind glass. They will steal it to cover them until they can get their fix. It's not the best opportunity for them. There have not been hundreds of thousands of deaths from it. It's in a way to protect our children and our residents from suffering that before something happens. I talked to Jenny Wilford, and again, I'm really upset that Heidi's moving on. And Heidi, and there is nothing to do with Cranton next year on the agenda, nothing at all. Jenny said that she would try to get something to get a bill introduced once she had more information. But I think that at the local level, it's really important for us to keep a finger on this. So if you all agree or I can get consent, I would like to have Corey do some more research on that for me. So what I'm asking from you is consent.
Okay, Corey, do you want to comment?
And if I could, I'm happy to do additional research, but there was a Senate bill in 2022, and it was Senate Bill 120. One of the issues with Kratom, frankly, is that even if regulated, it's regulated in a way where you can prohibit it as it relates to it being packaged for human consumption. And what you will still see in many stores is Kratom not for human consumption, still being sold. So there are limitations, frankly, on what the city can do. But I'm happy to put something together in terms of what that means and what its impact could be based on what is a very gray area in drug regulation, because it's not, and I'm not sure what Councilmember Brown sent to all of you, but Kratom is definitely an area where the state has looked at and legislated and created a feasibility report, actually, with not a lot of answers.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you that one. I went with, they haven't done anything. So that's all I'm looking for is consent so that Corey can provide additional information on it, and if it's even feasible.
How does council feel?
Real quick, that says it will take effect in 2024, correct? And that's going to regulate selling it to minors.
It also it authorizes local governments in some manners to do things such as prohibit for human consumption. Again, that it may not reach as far as those that want to prohibit Kratom want it to reach, but it does have some of that information as well.
Okay. Everyone feel okay with that?
Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your
Councilmember-
support.
Do you want to weigh in? Councilmember Collins?
No.
Oh, great, that one.
Yeah, I got this down.
Okay, thank you so much for communications. I can tell we are all very, very busy. None of us are letting dust gather. Financial report, Jason Loveland, our interim deputy city manager and director of finance,
Okay, thank you.
Two hats will present the March update. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First quarter update for 2023. I'm going to start off with an update on the sales and use tax. That's on the first slide. Some of you may have received a slide that looks a little bit different than this. So the year-to-date collections should be $4.3 million. Now, this is up 6.5% when compared to the prior year. Specifically, sales tax is up 5.9%. Auto use tax is up 20%. Food for home consumption tax is up 3%. And then over the marijuana tax, which I'll talk about on the next slide, is down 16%. One thing to note that at this time last year, we were up 13.9%. So we ended the year up about 4%. So 2 months in, this is only January and February collections at this point, so a lot can change year over year. So I just wanted to put that caveat on the small, tiny little 2023 line, that it has room to move all over the place throughout the year. Hopefully it just moves in a positive direction, though. Overall, in the city, this isn't on this report, it's on the more detailed report. The geographic areas are down 2% on the year. First month of collection, we were down 5%, so we're trending in the right direction. A report that I'll share next month is going to show that those same brick and mortar businesses are even throughout the year, kind of so flat, so no growth of any sort. Additionally, we've been talking a lot about the out-of-state or online businesses. That revenue growth is actually flat through the year at this point. So we may be seeing a little bit of steadying in sales tax growth year over year. But all in all, up 6.5% is a positive number for the first quarter. Again, marijuana tax is down 16%. That's kind of been the trend over almost the past year, just kind of hanging steady in that area, 15 to 16%. In the general fund, I'll touch on this briefly. Total revenues are at just under $6.2 million and total expenditures of $7.8 million. You'll notice that total revenues on the far right side, collection rate of 17.9%. That's consistent. We're a little lagging behind. We do a lot of the sales tax and revenue collections towards the end of the year, as you can imagine with the holidays. Expenditures, all of those are falling in line. We'd like to make sure that we're below 25% of spending, which we are at 22%. Again, that number fluctuates somewhere between 20 and 23% on an annual basis in the general fund. Again, in the general fund, nothing out of the ordinary from what we'd expect regarding our planned budget for the year. The next report or slide is the Conservation Trust Fund. Total revenues of $162,184. Again, this is lottery proceeds. Prior year, that number was $133,000, so up slightly year over year. Expenditures, there have been no expenditures to date of the $760,000 budget. The majority of that budget is made up of playground equipment, a project that's underway. And I can't read, the pavilion and shelter project that we just talked about at the last meeting. My writing is a little off. I should type my notes. So on the Capital Projects Fund, total revenues are at $3.1 million and total expenditures of $2.7 million. Again, the revenue is made up of intergovernmental revenue from various sources, Adams County Transportation and open space tax, along with our marijuana tax and just general sales tax as well. Expenditures here of $2.8 million. The majority of that is from two projects, one of which is 120th, and the other one is the City Hall project, make up about $2.5 million of that spending. In the water fund, point out $2.2 million of revenue and $3.2 million of expenditures. User charges and fees at $1.3 million. Consumption in the first 3 months of the year is actually up 1.3%. So just a slight increase for the first quarter as far as our water consumption. Spending here, everything is in alignment with the budget. You'll see that purchase services is at 39% of the spend rate. That is actually typical when we're doing a lot of pre-orders, chemicals and things like that early on in the year. So that's not out of the ordinary there. For the capital outlay line item, the biggest line there, $1 million for our waste handling and improvements project over at the water plant makes up a majority of that spending. Next, the wastewater fund, total revenues of just under $1.2 million and total expenditures just under $1.3 million. Capital outlay, big projects include the collection rehab and the odor control projects that there's more detail in the report later on. But nothing out of the ordinary, very consistent with prior years. The next fund, stormwater fund, $143,000 of revenue and expenditures of $103,000. The expenditure line is up about $75,000 comparing year over year, and that's due to the Huron Street project, the stormwater elements that go into that project on Huron. And then the last fund, on the sanitation fund, revenues of just under $380,000, expenditures of $422,000. Very consistent, no real change in revenue as fees have not changed in that fund for quite some time. And then just in general, to wrap this up for you, sales tax being up 5.9% across all funds. We're starting to see some leveling out with the one time of Carl's farm money that we had been talking about a lot in 2022. So we're seeing some of those things level out on the revenue side. And then overall expenditures are in alignment with what we would expect year over year. Have been keeping track of gas and electric and motor vehicle fuel prices. Depending, each of those are actually flat when you get to through April. But through March, it was kind of funny that you would see that those costs were up 25 to 75%, which just isn't telling. As we build financial data over time, a lot of that information will kind of smooth itself out. So I just wanted to touch on those because those have been kind of hot topics in the last few months, needing to make modifications to the 2022 budget. And then can take any questions. We are wrapping up our fiscal financial audit. So next month I'll be reporting on that. And along with it will be April's financial report. So happy to take any questions.
Councilmember Brown? Oh, you put your hand down.
Oh, I want to back up.
Okay, Councilmember Brown.
I don't know how I did
I
that.
expected it, so.
So this question, my first question to you, doesn't hit the budget right now, and I think it's probably into next year. And please, anybody correct me if they've heard elsewise. I was hearing that they were looking at reforming how we do our property, how the property taxes are assessed. And personally, I gained $100,000 in my assessment value in a year. So, from a resident perspective, I'm really excited about that. But I also know that if they cap those, do an average of the last 10 years and then, not look at it for another 10 years, is that going to affect us in our budgeting process? And can we just keep that on the radar so that we know what a kind of reduction we could get in our revenue? Mr. Legislator, you know anything?
No. So definitely keeping an eye out on what type of changes are proposed to the way that the assessed valuations and the calculations work. So of course, there will be an impact one way or another. So
Yeah.
I don't have anything. I don't have any.
I
more
think that we'll
information on
have
that.
extra income this year because, of that 3-month period where the housing spike was and the prices were outrageous. But hopefully they'll come up with a way of doing that. Prior to you taking over the deputy city manager's position, was your salary hitting the city manager's budget?
No.
No. So are you splitting your costs now, kind of a tacky question, between finance, or is it all gonna hit the city manager's budget?
As of the moment, it's all hitting finance.
Oh, it's all hitting finance. Awesome. Okay. And my third and last question, Heather might be able to answer it. The police overtime that has increased, is that related to the 12-hour days, or is that just a flux that it's increasing?
I think it's a combination of things. Jason, do you have greater detail on that?
Sure. Let me look.
My mind would go towards events plus, and Chief, I don't know if you want to come up and speak to that as well. To come to the microphone.
I think it's, one, the higher salaries that the officers went to, for that adjustment. And then also with the 12s turned into 14, I think that's some of the overtime.
Okay.
That we,
Where are we with people in the academy?
I can talk about that,
A different time?
yeah.
All right.
I mean, we have a bunch of people in training right now.
Okay.
So I think we have 6 in the academy.
I'll respect your decision to talk to me later about that. Thank you. That is my third and final question.
Councilmember Long.
Go ahead, Jason. You want to say something?
I was gonna say goodnight, but.
I think one is an anecdotal question, and I don't know if you have the answer necessarily, but I'm sure you've been thinking about it. Why would the marijuana sales tax be down, I ask?
You want me to answer that?
I was looking at law enforcement, I'm looking at you, whatever you think might be taking place. I'm thinking the black market is speaking very loudly to us.
No. I actually sit on the marijuana board for the state of Colorado. Can I?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what actually has happened is that as a result of COVID, you know, for those first few months or that first year, marijuana consumption went up really high. And then because they were staying home and we were isolated, and I don't mean to call them they, so it's a natural progression down. But the other thing that you'll see is that during that time, there were more people hired. So we're seeing it in the unemployment. We're seeing it in grow houses that are being shut down. Of the 18 grow houses that I know of that were shut down, only 2 have come back, and we expected more to come back. And then just to keep in the back of your mind, we have 2 projects that marijuana tax is part of the repayment plan. Am I right? And that's your Justice Center. What's the other one, Jason?
Actually, it's playing a part in all of our capital projects.
It does nothing?
No, it is playing a part
Oh.
in all of the Justice Center, the Recreation Center, the City Hall.
Yeah. So that's why I bother him about it every month, because I worry about how that's going to affect us in the long run. The projection, honestly, Mr. Long, or Councilmember Long, is that we will increase our market share again, but never to the point that it was pre-COVID.
And how did I get thrown under the bus there?
How'd you get?
I think you said marijuana.
Oh, I
Not-
thought he
not
said, why
mayor.
would the mayor want the sales
I know,
tax? I was like,
Marijuana.
I don't want the sales tax. What are you
Go
talking
there.
about?
Throughout your presentation, you always refer to the prior years this, prior years that. With all due respect, I'd like to see those prior years on your reports. Just show what happened in 2022 actual. Then I can see the comparative in the 5th column, just as a suggestion. Because you refer to it all the time, and I'm making quick notes to see where it is. So Jason, again, with all due respect, in terms of the presentation, I'd like to see that comparative. Lastly, I'm going to follow up on why the question mark. I'd like to see you mentioned the property taxes, and everybody took a heavy, heavy hit. I want to know if you feel comfortable in a couple months possibly doing a pro forma projection of what that might look like to us as a city, because as we know, the only flexibility we have in dollars are from sales tax and property taxes. Everything else is pretty well glued in tight when it comes to expenditures and which you can spend the money on freely in terms of additional dollars. And as we go forward, looking at our budgets, as I'm sure we will, be gnashing our teeth to try to figure out the best way to go forward with some of our most important priorities, I think it's important to know possibly what those dollars might look like. And again, I apologize ahead of time, because the last thing I want to do is give more assignment and more work to our staff. That's just something I don't do. But this time, I'm very, very curious about what that might look like to us. I think Councilwoman Brown brought up a great point when she said, what is it going to mean to us? I follow through it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't see any more hands.
All right. Well, good night.
You're off the hook. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Jason, thanks.
City Attorney Hoffman, I was wondering if you would like a moment to go back to your communications.
I would love a redo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Since my last communication, I've gotten a couple more texts that suggest that 213 is dead. And I asked specifically if it was public and if I could share it, and I was told the answer is yes. So therefore, I'm doing so.
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for everybody that talked common sense down at the Senate.
I still won't believe it till midnight, but I was told I could share
know.
that.
You need to text us updates through the night, okay?
The
Up till
Colorado
midnight.
Sun already put something out.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, so I can send you that article if you want. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, don't mess with local control. Like, a lot of cities put up a fight. I went and testified. I mean, it was a battle. So you're right, it's not over until it's over. But what a relief. Thank you for that fantastic news.
It's a relief for now.
For now.
Now, till the next session starts.
For now, for now. Okay. Moving to the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Great. Moving into the discussion item tonight, National League of Cities Capstone Project. Jessica Hulse, our Crisis Response Unit Manager, is here. Hello.
Hello, good evening, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me. I am here tonight to present the findings of the National League of Cities Capstone Project. So in the spring of 2022, our temporary shelter was shutting down. This was going to be shutting down in the month of August. And the City of Northglenn wanted to have an assessment done with recommendations on how to approach shelter options in the future. Our temporary shelter was stood up rather quickly and creatively using the resources we had at the time. And I think it was a major success that Northglenn got to see. Out of the 72 full-time participants, 21 of them moved into full-time housing, long-term housing. And so with that, City wanted to see, what about evidence-based practices? If we had the time to explore, what would those recommendations be? So at that time, the City of Northglenn applied and was selected to be a part of the National League of Cities Capstone Project, and that happened in May of 2022 with our mayor's letter, also with our former assistant to city manager, Rupa Venkatesh. The NLC Capstone Projects is where local governments are matched with private corporations across the United States and tasked with finding innovative solutions for small governments. Northglenn was matched with the company Pallet. Pallet prioritizes pallet shelters, so they're usually 10 by 10 or 8 by 8 freestanding units for individuals who are experiencing homelessness, and they put those into pallet villages or pallet safe outdoor spaces. The project concluded in February with a 50-page report with assessments and solutions regarding homelessness. In that report, which was also provided, there were 4 major findings. I'll go through those findings and then the recommendations that went with each of the findings. So finding number 1, and keep in mind these are all findings that were found by Pallet after doing a community needs assessment. So Pallet flew out to Colorado, they met with local leaders here in North Glen, our community, Adams County, and then that's what they used to form this report. So these are their findings, and they had input from people in North Glen and our Adams County. The City of North Glen and Adams County need additional programs to support people experiencing homelessness, particularly for individual adults. Gaps also exist countywide for mental and behavioral health services, which is an urgently growing need. This was their finding number 1, and they provided 4 different recommendations: to explore opportunities and partnerships for shelters with wraparound services, to pursue federal and state and local grants and funding opportunities for different shelter models, to develop a subcommittee or hold strategy and planning forums with the Adams County Intergovernmental Committee on Homelessness, and to recruit and cultivate service provider organizations with expertise and training in managing interim shelter programs and mental and behavioral health programs for people experiencing homelessness. All a lot to say that having regional collaboration will work in our best interest as we look at different shelter models as well as funding sources. I also want you to keep in mind this concluded last February, so some of these recommendations you will already be seeing put in place, not necessarily due to this study, but because they too are all just in best practices that the county and the city have found to move forward with. And I'm sorry I did not put those up on the screen. So on to finding 2. Improvements are needed within Adams County and by individual cities to advance a more equitable approach towards regional homeless planning. And the findings that go along with that is that the county should expand the regional MOU to determine explicit plans, shared goals, and specific roles and responsibilities. Currently, I think you know we have an MOU in place across the county. It does not highlight specific plans and goals for each municipality. It's more of a buy-in that each of the municipalities will be highlighting homelessness as a concern in their community. Employing a collective impact model to address homelessness regionally across government departments, nonprofits, community stakeholders, and service providers. And have a commitment from all Adams County cities to support homelessness efforts equally, providing tangible resources, including funding, programs, sites from each jurisdiction. And I think as a region, we have decided that it's not going to be one city that advances homeless solutions. We are between 2 different counties that already provide homeless solutions, and none of those municipalities that reside between Denver and Boulder want to be the one that stands up and hosts the majority of the solutions. Finding number 3. Regional leaders and community members have varied levels of understanding about homelessness issues, including its drivers and potential solutions. More engagement and education is needed around strategies to resolve unsheltered homelessness and a deeper understanding of the root causes of homelessness within Adams County. To me, this is finding number 1. So before we can tackle a problem, we really need to understand it. So this is where you'll also see a lot of the progress that's already being done in the recommendations. So developing a community engagement toolkit for city and county residents on homelessness issues. We have a lot of data that's being provided through the point-in-time count on various city websites. I know we provide monthly data on our interactions regarding people experiencing homelessness. We can provide housing reports. Adams County also provides a lot of reports regarding homelessness that you can turn to if you're doing a presentation. Proactively offering educational forums and listening sessions to the public prior to developing and opening new homeless programs or emergency shelters. This is one we are very adept at. Before we opened that temporary housing program, we had a lot of engagement, as well as when certain areas were looking at safe parking places. We listened to the community during those listening sessions and were able to find a more agreeable solution for the residents of City of North Glen. Number 3, improving systems, tracking, and data collection within current homeless programs. Right now, across the entire county, we use a software program called Homeless Management Information System. This is overseen by MDHI, which is Metro Denver Homeless Initiative, which is also our continuum of care for this area. If you are working with people experiencing homelessness, this is the software you have to have access to. It is the only software that will allow you to advance people for housing vouchers outside of Section 8 housing, which is overseen by the housing authorities. And then fourth, publicly share metrics and data, personal testimonies, and other critical information to help dispel misconceptions and stigmas about people experiencing homelessness. And I think you're seeing that in events such as the documentary night that we hosted, and then our upcoming Bridge Summit will touch on that as well. And again, I forgot to advance my presentation. Okay, so finding number 4. There is an urgent need for non-congregate temporary shelter programs providing trauma-informed wraparound services to unsheltered residents within the city of North Glen. I think, as you know, Adams County, roughly 500,000 people, we do not have a shelter. We have one shelter out in Aurora called the Comida Center. That is a lottery-based system. You have one day per month to be able to access that. Unless you are a family, they do have a family unit, or fleeing domestic violence. They do have about 6 beds, I believe, don't quote me on that, for people fleeing domestic violence. There are no other shelters in Adams County that are considered an emergency shelter. I see question marks. You might be thinking about Almost Home or Access Housing. Almost Home has 6 units for families. It's on a wait list, and I think the current wait list is around 150 families. Access Housing has a shelter for families. I think they have 7 units. You have to be recommended through TANF, which is Temporary Assistance Needy Families, so you have to be receiving services through them to even be able to access their wait list. Those are the only shelters here in Adams County. So there is an urgent need for non-congregate. Non-congregate is the gold standard right now when we're looking at shelters. It allows people to have a safe place. People living on the streets don't typically boast of safety. They typically are coming from feeling like they are unsafe. And so when you put 50 people, 70 people, 100 people in one room in a congregate shelter, that safety never gets to be felt there either. So you keep people living in non-trauma-informed ways. Yes, they are allowed to have shelter, and oftentimes, like Denver Rescue Mission's 48th Street, they do have a place to lock up belongings, which is really nice, but privacy is not there. So if you're talking about veterans who are coming with PTSD, jumping out at loud noises, feeling really unsafe about not having physical protection, then those are not places that are accessed by those individuals. So a non-congregate shelter comes in many forms. You can take a house and do a master lease. You can turn old hotels into non-congregate shelter, like we're seeing done with the Clarion Hotel, which is a partnership between Adams County and Denver County. And then you can also just stand up old buildings into non-congregate. I think some places consider it non-congregate when you just stand up little cubicle spaces to cordon off sleeping areas for people. So the recommendations from this finding number 4 are numerous, but we were partnered with the Pallet Company, and so their recommendations focus on pallet shelters. Pallet shelters are a form of non-congregate shelter. Each pallet shelter either represents 64 square feet or 100 square feet, depending on if you're in an 8x8 or a 10x10. The 10x10s are built for 2 people, the 8x8s are built for singles. And they came up with a couple of different shelter solution locations for us to assess. There we go. Go back one. All right, there we go. The first one is at the Adams County Human Services Center. I said this was a partnership between North Glen and Pallet Company, and we also asked them to assess Adams County as a whole. That's because we do believe in a regional approach, and we wanted to know, 1, is there a desirable location here in North Glen? And if so, Great, what is it? And also, what are the surrounding ones? We asked different municipalities if they would be willing to be analyzed. Adams County said they would be, and Westminster said they would be, and other municipalities declined in that process. So here we have, it does not mean that we have their buy-in to start broadcasting that we're using their location. So this is the Human Services Building. It is located off of 118th and Pecos. You can see what the footprint of it is. It's in the bottom left corner. And what that represents, I know the writing is really small, is 40 of the smaller units, 5 of the larger units, 3 of the units used for case management and security offices, 2 standard use bathrooms with 1 accessible bathroom, 1 laundry unit, and 1 800 square foot community room. So one pallet shelter I have gone to consistently is the one down in Aurora. And it's very similar to this model. They have 1 large community room. People can hang out throughout the day. Then they have a couple of little offices for case management, private meetings, and security throughout the evenings. And then it's just rows of white square little buildings. There doesn't seem to be a lot. I think they have community rules of stuff that can build up around those buildings because I don't see any, but people are able to access their, they have a door that locks and they can keep their belongings inside that unit. So the next potential location is at the Wagon Road Park and Ride. And it should be said that if any of these ideas want to be advanced, it will take a considerable effort to either partner with Westminster, RTD, or seeing what needs to be done in the city of Northglenn if that one is highlighted. So the Wagon Road is the same size, so you're looking at those 40 of the smaller units, 5 of the larger units, 3 of the case management security offices, 2 bathrooms, 1 accessible bathroom, 1 laundry unit, and 1 community space. And here you can see what the footprint is. This is along 120th right there, right outside that Wagon Road. A huge benefit of that location is transportation. That's utilized heavily by this population, and partnership opportunities with that transportation. So that's a benefit of that location. And then the third potential place is our own Scout Park. If you don't know where Scout Park is, it's right next to the Community Reach Center off of Highline, and it kind of curves into a neighborhood. Scout Park goes onto that corner, so Scout Park jumps over that, I think it's a ditch, the Highline Canal right there. And on the side closer to the street, or to like the corner, that place does have taps. The place that's being proposed does not have taps, and it's also not graded. So you'd have to look at construction fees that go along with that spot, because right now it's just dirt and uneven land. So you'd have to look at that. It also is a smaller footprint, so this would have 16 of the smaller units, 4 of the larger units, 1 of the case management office, 1 bathroom and 1 accessible bathroom, 1 laundry unit, and 1 smaller community room. So it's a little bit of a smaller footprint for that size, and that's what's the recommendation coming from Pallet, and they help stand these up across the country. So they did their aerials, and they looked at best practices for the size. So all of this information is being shared with you with really no recommendations besides seeking your input on if there are findings that come out of this study that you would like to prioritize. It doesn't have to be the pallet shelters. It can be some of the other regional things. It can be the pallet shelters. If pallet shelters are not being highlighted, it does not mean that we won't look at other congregate models and bring forth those models to you. If you are interested in a different model, that can be highlighted and brought forth to you. And then from staff recommendations, At this point, knowing what I know from standing up our temporary shelter and then also seeing the efforts across the county, staff input would be if we don't see other municipalities standing up a pallet shelter, we would not want to be the only one. That is because of our smaller footprint, where we would be putting it within the city of North Glen. If we want to partner with other municipalities and get them on board with hosting pallet shelters as well, it could be a great fit for North Glen. But at this point, I would not say, seeing the plans across the county, that we would want to be the first and only pallet shelter. So that's just a staff recommendation. You can take it how you'd like it. And I think we will open up for questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Burns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was not expecting to go first. Sorry. So I have a couple questions. My first one, with the pallet shelters, I agree with the staff's recommendation, but this is kind of random. Like for 40, shelters and only 2 bathrooms, that seems not great.
That's why we turn to the experts who are putting them up across the country. They work with service providers. They're on scene. They visit their pallet shelters. So I think they're getting that feedback from the people who are actually running the shelters. I agree, but I don't think that they're gender specific. So I don't know how that plays into things. But yeah, it does seem tight. I'm thinking about our own temporary shelter. We had 25 people and we had 2 bathroom units. People had to sign up for a slot to take a shower because we only allowed 1 shower at a time.
Yeah.
And so essentially we had 2 bathrooms there for that many people. And we only opened that shelter in the evenings. So having access to restrooms all day is different than only having access to them in the evenings as well. So that's why we turn to the experts, because we don't know those answers right now.
Yeah, 'cause that just seems like it keeps the burden on like local businesses or public restaurants.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, like I've had roommates, right? Like 3 girls, 1 bathroom is not a good situation, so I can't imagine this is either. And then just from like an input situation, I do think the number one thing to help address homelessness is education around how people become unhoused, because everyone's story is very different. I used to volunteer and work in this area, and I just think understanding how this happens is really, really important. It is not a blanket solution for everybody. And I feel like people are just like, oh, just throw up some housing and that will fix it, but it won't, because, or just like off their jobs, but a lot of times we see in our unhoused population, people do have full-time jobs and still cannot afford to live here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of things. I just wanted to clarify, between the 3 pallet locations, there's going to be electricity? And they're all set up for that, or
That's
that would?
correct. So that would be more information we'd have to bring to you, which ones are set up. The ones at the Human Services Building would have electric poles, so electricity is already out in those parking lots. Same with Wagon Road. With Scout Park, that would have to be a concern.
Okay, and then the water and sewer, is that all also just like the neighborhood?
That's correct.
So the bathrooms you're talking about aren't porta potty?
They are not porta potties.
Okay. And then what about parking? Like you said, some of these people maybe have cars and
Cars and
jobs.
such. That's a great thought. I don't know. The other pallet shelter I visit in Aurora, it's off of a church, the Restoration Church down there. And I don't know which cars would be, it's in a strip mall. So I don't know which ones are belonging to patrons or staff of the strip mall and which ones would be for the clients. I'm guessing that it would be a minimal concern.
Okay, well, I just would say, I think, I agree with the staff's recommendation, we shouldn't be the only one. The Scout Park one is the one that kind of has me concerned with parking, just because it would just have to be on the street. And I actually looked, when I talked to the people who came out from the pallet organization, I actually mentioned that site. And because one of the reasons was because the Highline Canal does separate that location from any resident.
Yeah, it's nicely tucked away back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't have a huge impact except for the construction of it,
Mhm.
I wouldn't think, and the neighbors might have something else to say.
Okay. All right, those are my comments.
Okay. Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And obviously, some of Dr. Goff's questions were related to what I sent you by email earlier today. But then I actually reread your presentation, and you're not looking for prioritization of the locations. I think what you're asking for is the prioritization of the findings.
Of the findings, that's correct. And after you emailed me today, I did reach out to Leah so I could get more concrete answers. The only one I received about was you did ask about food preparation, and she said that in all of their sites, that's one of the main stipulations that they ask for, is that the service provider promises food. Most sites have food delivery brought in, so they don't have cooking or fire hazards on site.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I would like to go back to what you are looking for from us. And I would agree with Councilmember Burns that I think we continue to prioritize finding number 3, which is the education component. I will tell you, when I attended the documentary viewing discussion, it totally changed my thinking about homelessness, persons experiencing homelessness, the politically correct term. So my sense is it's that, and I think it's also combining that with finding number 2 activities, running those in parallel. Because, let's face it, if we were to do it at Wagon Road, we're gonna have to get Westminster on board. So, my recommendation is pursue findings 2 and 3 in parallel.
Okay.
And then I have one other question to ask. I hope you'll indulge me, Mayor. So if we were to do this, who is actually going to provide the staffing horsepower to run this?
That's a great question. Most of that would fall on the crisis unit, I am guessing. We are the ones who kind of spearhead the homeless efforts in North Glen, and are the closest to the people experiencing homelessness as well as the potential solutions.
Okay.
So it would be working with the crisis unit.
Gotcha. I'm just trying to wrap my head around, because you can put the infrastructure, but you gotta have, the only way the world turns is, well, money and people. So,
Councilmember Long?
This is disturbing to me in so many ways and so many levels, including a hierarchical look-see at this problem. I did take the time to reach out and have a communication with Almost Home. They're inviting us to a donut fair coming up. I also did some homework on the website that we were paired with in terms of the pallet folks. For me, when I first saw that, my first reaction was a little bit like the fox watching the hen house. I'll give you the plan, and then here's how you want to implement it. I couldn't help but go to page 45 of the report, which shows the price tag on this at $1.4 million.
Yeah.
And my question is then, is this fair to North Glen residents? And then I watched the news last night, and I saw your ex-partners, the Denver Mission, crying wolf, scared to death with something that's the big elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about, and that's immigration, and all the people that may well come here. And are we not a sanctuary city? North Glen is a sanctuary city? We are?
Yeah.
And we were number 1, were we not? We were even ahead of Denver and Boulder for that designation and volunteering to be as such.
Well,
Not that that matters, but we're a sanctuary city.
we don't
Right?
have that title.
I don't think it's official.
Are we not a sanctuary city, yes or no?
Well, how are you defining? I mean, we did pass a statement early on that said that we wouldn't go out of our way to.
Yeah, let's just,
Yeah, let's have the-
Corey, can you answer that question? Councilmember Long is asking if we are a sanctuary city. I think that is not something that we have said that we are.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah.
I heard that we were. I guess it's just an urban legend.
It's a state. We're a state, sanctuary state.
And I thought we had vied with other municipalities to be so designated. Am I wrong in that?
I am not aware of that. Several years ago, I think council adopted a resolution that said they weren't going to ask people that were here illegally their immigration status, but I'm not aware of having become a sanctuary city.
I remember it being discussed at a council meeting with Councilmember Sowers, advocating for that, but I don't believe we passed anything. No.
Yeah, this is what is being said by the Almost Home folks, that they do not collect information on immigration status for their clients, which follows through with what you're saying. They serve many households, higher number of children. Demographics, they serve 17% more women than men. To my surprise, very few veterans. There are more whites clients than any. In terms of ethnicity, 27% Hispanic as compared to non-Hispanic. Many of the clients do not report their mental health disorders or substance abuse if they have one. It's possible that more clients do have mental health or substance abuse disorders, but they do not feel comfortable reporting those to their case manager. I think that would follow through with.
Yeah, and I think Almost Home, they don't only serve people experiencing homelessness, and the reason they're going to serve more women is because their shelter is designated for families, and I don't know if it has to have a female in that family unit or not. So that they help with things such as homeless prevention. So they're one of our only resources for rent assistance. They offer rent assistance the first 10 days of every month. And then they also do case management services. They have the job resource center where they allow people to come in and use the computers to access and build resumes and that sort of thing. So they're not just a homeless resource, they are a housing and family housing stability resource is what they are. But they're not a service provider of non-congregate shelters. They only have their one family shelter.
I guess what I'm trying to determine here is this our organizational strategy?
So I'm going to break it down in a couple things. You said the finance piece. Adams County has funding for 3 different pallet shelters. They've put that out to each of the municipalities. So they have funding set aside to host 3 different pallet shelters.
Who's this?
Adams County.
Adams County has the money.
Correct.
They've got 1.4 million set aside.
They just spent over $3 million to get 16 rooms at the Clarion Hotel.
But they're not finding places in Adams County that they would volunteer.
Not that I have seen. So if they did find a regional approach, that's when I think it could be a really nice solution for North Glen. If we had 2 other locations, so if all 3 of those locations were going to be stood up, then the staff recommendation would be, let's see how this fits in with North Glen. And if we don't have those 2 other locations being stood up in Adams County with the funding that Adams County is providing, then I don't think we want to be the only one. But that's only the staff recommendation.
Are you seeing the demand for homelessness that this study reflects?
Yes.
Is it more than this number?
More than the 40 units? Yes.
What would
In
you
the
say?
past year and a half, our team has housed 51 clients.
And the rec center, when we had that set up, as I recall, that cost $500,000?
That's correct. That's a congregate shelter.
And we took care of how many?
72 full-time, and I want to say it was 136 total with the emergency drop-offs.
And we had outside funding, or did that come from city funds?
That came from Adams County.
I'll stop.
City Attorney Hoffman.
Madam Mayor, my recollection was largely actually accurate. I don't know what the term sanctuary city is, and I think it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But in 2016, the council did adopt a resolution that said it would not enforce federal immigration laws against those who haven't committed criminal acts. And we can certainly distribute that resolution to you tomorrow, but that was what the North Glen City Council did in 2016.
So let me get this straight, sorry. 2016, we said we're not going to enforce ICE.
Against those who have not committed criminal acts, so that if they came forward as witnesses, I think the council's policy determination at the time was they didn't want people to be fearful of coming forward and reporting crimes with the idea their immigration status would be reported. So it was against those who hadn't committed criminal acts. That was the 2016 resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Walker.
Thank you. Just, Jessica, this year you does a great job. I just want to say that to start off. So thank you. I want to say I'm glad to see that possibly Adams County and some other cities are going to finally come to the trough and play with us. And I'd sure like to see that before we do, and I'm absolutely 100% opposed to us being a pop-up site. Speaking of the cars, I do think that will be an issue in the parking. I don't understand why Adams County wouldn't put it out there building out by 470 where there's plenty of parking that's never utilized, and that'd provide almost the same, maybe the same area as all three pallet shelters combined. So I hope they come to the table and play with this, but I do not want to be the only one. Thank you.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor. I also do have concerns for each site. Say for Scout Park, built neighbors work free. They would live in the backyard. Just, pretty sure. Also, I think there would be a need for IGA to support Westminster and RTD for the RTD site. I just know everything that site is very, it's very messy for lack of a better term, but also for the Adams County Human Services Center, I could also see like a public hearing with the prestigious ranch across the street going, not some backlash for sure. But my question is, what are the potential options in unincorporated Adams County in the urban area, which have a Denver zip code? What are the options there? I feel like there's great opportunity there. Perhaps businesses that are no longer in business, such as Rocky's Autos or something like that. That's just the hypothetical. But I feel like when I was painting murals along the Highline Canal, I noticed there was, not the Highline Canal, it was Clear Creek, in that area along I-76. There's issues there, and I feel like if Adams County, they're really coming to the table and they want to make this impact, I feel like it would be best in unincorporated Adams County in an urban setting, which would be South Adams County. If we can look at those options, I think that would probably be the one that would make the most sense. It could be the larger, and we talked about parking. There's potential for that too. There's, access to Federal Boulevard and 64th Avenue, I-76. Make their way there. It's very centrally located. That's just an idea that I've been thinking about for a little while, and I just wanted to express that to you, and essentially that would be a site that Adams County will look into.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Jay, I was just kind of looking at the map of unincorporated Adams County. Part of the problem, I suppose, is, and the reason why I suggested that we do findings 3 and 2 simultaneously is it's really this NIMBYism, the not in my backyard. And it seems like there's some level of moral courage required here, not only just us as a city, right, but we're going to have to convince other cities like Westminster or Thornton to also muster the moral courage to do something that's decent for people. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard because if you really don't understand how you fall into this kind of downward spiral of persons experiencing homelessness, and I too also volunteered, but this is for veterans in San Diego. Certainly I would encourage you to watch the movie, I think it was Us and Them. It was very instructive for me. But the other thing is, this is going to require a PR campaign of unbelievable amount of effort just to get people to say, look, let's have some compassion, but let's also come together as multiple cities in a regional approach, as we discussed when we were at Perry's Pizza. It seems to me that's the only way forward here. I don't know. When you had interacted with Pallet Homes, did you have some conversation about that as well? Strategies for getting
Yeah,
buy-in
it's a little bit
on a
eye-opening.
regional basis?
Because it is never easy to pitch services, especially facility services, for people experiencing homelessness to any community. Many communities kind of forge forward by themselves. So from Pallet Shelter, we are a unique region in that we are trying a regional approach. They have not seen that in other areas where you can get a lot of municipalities on board at the same time, looking at the same solutions. They agree that non-congregate shelter is the gold standard. They do not say that Pallet is the only way. That is what they specialize in. Another option that we have looked at, which is what Boulder just released that they are doing, is they're working with a service provider to do master leasing. And that's where a nonprofit leases a house and they do not disclose the location. It's much harder to advertise that location, and these homes kind of blend in because they're following the rental regulations of the city or the county that they are in. And then you have one leaseholder that can then sublet rooms as a service provider, providing case management. So that's a less, I don't know if it's a less visible. I think it's a less visible because it's just a home and it's a master lease. And if you refuse to disclose the location, that's a different option. Buying hotels is not an option that North Glen has because we don't have one that is for sale. So that's not an option.
Okay.
No.
Councilmember Brown.
Hi. Sorry. So I have a couple questions and a statement. I back Councilmember Long's comments. I also have concerns on cost to the city. It's not something that I want to pursue at this time. I don't want to be alone. Clarion Hotel behind Applebee's, is that already being transformed into a homeless shelter?
The Clarion Hotel is in North Denver, just south of Adams County. That's the one that Adams County plus Denver County are partnering on. It'll have 215 rooms. Adams County pitched in 8% of the cost, which is just over $3 million, which will get us 8% of the rooms. So if you do the math, it's roughly around 16 rooms, I think. Is that right? Someone check my math.
When we met with Adams County as a group, Adams County mentioned that they have a hotel.
Yes.
They were against it, but they have a hotel. Is that the hotel behind Applebee's? Because I'm very concerned that also
She's talking about the location across the street, Grant
in
Street that we were
Thornton.
talking about earlier.
There's
Yeah.
a different opportunity with a different hotel located in Thornton, and I don't think that City of Thornton has voted on it, had much discussion about it at all. I don't know if it's moving forward or not.
one of my concerns about that Clarion Hotel, although it's not in North Glen, is that the homelessness situation over there since the hotel is closed.
No, so, sorry, I want to break those two. The Clarion Hotel is probably about 15 miles from here.
Which
10
was the
10
one that
miles.
was next?
That's the Sure Stay. The
Okay.
Sure Stay is here, which is one of the hotels that's used in the SWAP program that's being looked at for other solutions as well. But that is not the Clarion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, wrong
Yep,
name.
you're good.
So that is Thornton's, right?
That's correct.
Westminster, we're talking about putting it on Wagon Wheel, and then we're determining another location in North Glen. Our entire city could be surrounded with homeless, lack of a better word, encampments or where they can live. I have a real problem with that because when the rec center was transformed into its homeless shelter, we had very limited rooms. I strongly believe that that is what blew up our homeless population at that time, because they had such tight requirements to fit in there. And people would hear that there was a homeless shelter in Northglenn, come up and couldn't get into it. So therefore, we had experiences with EB rains and all of that. I have noticed, because I had somebody take me over to that hotel behind Applebee's and say, what is this? And I said, well, first of all, this is Thornton. This is not ours. And there is a lot, if that is to become a homeless shelter, there is a lot of homeless activity that is then going to spread across the street and increase upon our homeless already problem. I don't agree, the one that's in Ward 3, that one, the residents, I don't think that they would approve of it, but if they do, I don't really have a problem with that. But these other two, especially, I know we don't have a choice about the hotel behind Applebee's, but I strongly predict, and I want to get it out in the open, that we're going to have some issues with that crossing over 120th into the parks and things like that. So I know we don't have much that we can do there, but I'm very much against surrounding the city with encampments. We like to be, as a city, we like to be the first to do things. Like our city hall is going to be all solar, and we had homeless in our rec center. We like to be the first. But in this particular instance, we cannot put all this responsibility on our residents. This is not a Northglenn only issue, and what we continue to do is attract because we want to help. So we end up having a bigger problem than some of the other cities. Mind you, I've gone to the homeless encampments off of Santa Fe, okay? We don't have anything like that. I mean, those are heartbreaking. But the fact that these three choices hit Northglenn one way or another, all the way around, I strongly disagree that we should. I am very much a proponent of homelessness. Those are one of my passions too, right? Unhoused people. But you cannot bring into a community and circle the community with unhoused individuals. Your property values are going to go down, no matter what we think about it, whether our big hearts are out there or not. Our property values are going to go down. It's a huge responsibility onto the residents. We can sit up here as a panel of 9 and say that, we agree to this, right? I don't think our residents are going to feel the same way. You saw what happened when we tried to get some of the parking lots into, they just lost their stuff over it. So I am in favor, much like Councilmember Harmilio said, I am in favor of Adams County stepping up to the plate. And if you remember, I had a discussion with Chaz where I got shut down completely because Adams County is not looking at what they can do for homelessness. They are looking at what us individual cities can do to solve homelessness. And it's not our job to bear the weight of every homeless person, unhoused person. It's not our job. We take care of our residents, and although they are residents of ours, it's not our job. I think we're stepping way out of our expertise, our fields of expertise. I just have a real problem with this. I can go with what Councilmember Kondo said and Councilmember Burns said as far as education and things like that. But looking at putting anything in these places, I would be against. Adams County needs to step forward. They cannot keep going, it's the city's responsibility. No.
I do want to add right here, because we do have a great working relationship with Adams County on homeless issues. They just hosted a dinner and provided a lot of presentations on things that they are doing. Those are things that will also benefit our group. I do want to also say a lot of times that we are seeing homeless success with moving people forward. We don't see huge sweeping wins. So even looking at smaller programs the City of Northglenn is interested in moving forward with, that's how we are able to help individuals one at a time, the way that the crisis unit does it, because we really do provide long-term case management until they get handed off to a longer-term case management. So all of these housings that we've done in the past year and a half have been individual housing vouchers, one at a time, that sort of thing. So they are providing services. The Clarion Hotel, I know it's a large amount of money, and I know that we all want more rooms, but it will be 16 rooms that we don't have access to yet, and you do have a team that you employ with the crisis unit that takes full advantage of everything that Adams County does offer. So we are fully aware of what Adams County is offering, and I really do enjoy working with them on these proposed solutions.
I just have one more, and then I'm done, okay? So I appreciate everything you do. You know that my heart has been touched by your work, okay? But I have to look at I have to look at it outside of what you do. You had mentioned when somebody said, and I know I'm passionate, I can't help it, I'm sorry. You had mentioned when someone asked about who would be, I believe it was Councilmember Long, who would be manning, who would be taking care of these facilities, right? And you mentioned probably our crisis response unit, which would mean, that isn't what you said? CRU?
Yeah, that's Councilmember Condo asked me who would be taking the charge on like the education piece and that sort of thing, not manning the facilities.
Okay, who would manage?
They would be hired by, service providers would be brought in. So during that Bridge Summit, we will be bringing in organizations that do this for a living. So people that do that are Salvation Army, Urban Alchemy. They do a lot of the service provisions across the United States. Denver Rescue Mission is a service provider we've partnered with before. Those are service providers that come in and man the sites, not the crew.
But we could possibly, as a city, have a financial responsibility?
It's possible. I mean, Adams County has said that they will fund 3 different, and that includes facilities plus the service providers, those contracts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's the end of my questions.
Yeah.
I have more, but I'll get it.
Mayor Pro Tem Lucman Hiramasa.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I just want to say thank you for everything that you have done, because we received that award at NLC because of all the hard work that you put into this, and I just think that needs to be acknowledged. I know we're talking about a lot of different things. So the work that you do is important, and the reason that we received that award is because of you and the work that you've done. So I want to start there. The second thing that I think, I'm trying to think of this as these are not just 3 boxes that we have to fit in, and what I'm understanding that you want from us. It's not, it has to be here in Westminster, it has to be there in Westminster, it has to be here in Northland. Those are some options that came forward. But I think what's important, and what Councilmember Condo said and Councilmember Burns, in terms of we can focus on that regional collaboration, which we have been fighting so hard for. We've had meetings with our county commissioners. Councilmember Condo, that meeting at Perry's Pizzeria showed other county commissioners showed up and other council members showed up. We want to do something. We want to work together. So I think we definitely need to focus on that regional expansion of the MOU, whatever that looks like. And that's the first part. It doesn't mean that these 3 options are it. This was a study that was done. It's my understanding, right?
That's correct.
And so what can we take from that? Some of these findings are good. Like, yes, we should focus on that MOU. So I just want to say I think expansion of that is important to me. And what I think I heard some other people saying, but also, I do agree that we want to do something, but we can't be the only ones. I mean, that's why we need that regional collaboration, right? So we can't just be the only ones. I'm also in agreement with that. But other cities that maybe wouldn't want to do a pallet shelter might be able to get in on regional collaboration if they can provide some other kind of service that's not, pallet shelters in their city, if that's what is happening. And we have to listen to what our residents say. The Safe Parking Lot Initiative, that I remember being in those meetings, and we did have a lot of residents who were like, no, we don't want this here, when Good Shepherd was attempting to do that. But there is a desire to do it. So I know that was long-winded, but I feel like you need a little bit of direction on what we were focusing on. So, and then for number 3, education, I will say that everything in my world says that I should not be sitting here right now. I have experienced homelessness. I don't get emotional, but my mother was a single parent, and we lived in condemned buildings. We lived outside for a while. So if you don't understand those layers, then you can't just be so quick to judge. And I'll stop there because I'm going to get emotional.
Thank you for that.
But focusing on what you need, education, 100%, and just focus on the regional collaboration, because other things might come out of there that we can, better use our personnel, our funds for. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I want to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to share once before I circle back. Anybody who hasn't already commented. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have some clarifying questions, just like hearing my fellow council members speak. So the 3 sites, is this based on need? Like they identified everywhere around us based on need, or is it just because we were kind of like?
So the locations were identified because that's where services are. So human services, you already have services built in.
Yeah.
Transportation, you have the main transportation hub for this area. And then we needed to analyze North Glen open properties. And when we look at North Glen open properties, Scout Park is the only open property that we have. So
And
we had to
technically,
analyze
it's
it.
a park,
It's a
so
park, yeah.
that's an element in and of itself. So when we did this study and Paula asked, well, what available land do you have? That's one of the greatest challenges we've communicated to the BOCC is that we don't have undeveloped land that we own. And this is a park site, so that would be a whole process in and of itself. So really look at this as a study, as a concept. And if you take away anything from this study, it speaks to the challenges that exist in doing this work.
Yeah, because I guess I'm like fuzzy around, like, if we're talking about Adams County, Adams County is long, right?
Yep.
But I understand that, like, we are in the hub of the densely populated area that is Adams County.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a site located on the eastern side that's going to be put forward.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, when you're doing wraparound services, it's going to resolve around case management, employment, transportation, access to food, all that kind of, access to opportunity. So you're really going to be looking at that I-25 corridor in Adams County, so.
Westminster, federal lines. Yeah, okay, so I just wanted to make sure, because it seemed like we were giving like main character energy, and I just wanted to make sure that was because of the right reasons that I was understanding.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Phrase it. Councilmember Long?
I just have quick comments and a couple questions. The people that we're serving, they're from North Glen,
That's correct.
100%.
Let me do a clarification on that. And I'm going to provide a lot more detail on that when I come and give our quarterly update, because you do see our quarterly numbers. We open that resource room on Fridays from 9 a.m. until noon. In that resource room, I don't know where everyone's from. People know there's a resource, they come. We know they do not stay here. I was recently provided a list of 199 names that were associated with North Glen during the SWAP season, which is a severe weather activation program. I went through that list, line item by line item, to see the names that were associated with North Glen. Out of the 199 names, 72 are people that the crew has actually worked with. Out of the 72, 31 individuals we can identify as sleeping in North Glen at one point in the past year. Out of the 31 individuals who have slept in North Glen, 11 of them we have housed, so that brings the number down to 20. Out of the 20 individuals that we have not housed, we know 15 of them have family members and friends that they couch surf on. So out of the 199 names that say they are associated with North Glen, we brought it down to 15 who actually sleep here in North Glen. Out of those 15, it would be we are talking about chronic homelessness, we are talking about many mental health issues, substance use disorders, many barriers. Even so, there is a new housing voucher that is being put out for people who are exiting an institution. Because the crisis unit listens to arrests all day long, we also know which of our clients have been arrested, so then we can go ahead and make a referral to that specific housing voucher. And out of the 15, we have matched 5 current people with a housing voucher that we are now getting housed. So that will bring the 15 down to 10. So
Thank you.
those are your numbers.
Well, thank you for that. Helps me clarify what I'm thinking of here.
Yeah, so you see large numbers because you have to identify what data do we want to capture. We choose to capture the large one, and then I can break it down in our quarterly
Yeah,
updates.
That'd be much appreciated.
Yep.
And I just want to go on record also, the crisis response unit has a place here. There's no question in my mind. I've said that before publicly, and I put it in my little statement that went out in the Northland Connection. What I'm hearing is a regional collaboration, but I heard that the commissioners are not all that willing to be champions of this. And that might be the crux of the problem. How are you going to get them to be the champions? How are you going to cajole them to step up to the plate? I don't have that answer. But I think that your work here is stellar and should provide some leverage perhaps to show them that they need to think about this. And my last question is, it's a question, part of the statement. When I first stood at that podium before the council to get appointed, one of the things we talked about was detox. And I know the police officers are really concerned with that because we have no detox anywhere.
Correct?
And I don't know how this fits into this whole
It fits.
theater.
Yep. So I don't have an update. Chief, do you want to talk about what the chiefs are doing regarding a detox center? We have had conversations, but I'll let Chief take it.
Actually, currently, we just met last month with the sheriff, mental health, health services. And that's one of the things we want to not only a detox center we're trying to look into, but also a detox / crisis center. So that's another thing, trying to bring everybody to the table and see how we can get this accomplished. Also, county commissioners involved in that process as well. So there's a model out there. We'll see if we can get it done, but we're meeting and having those meetings and those talks, so.
Thank you all. Thanks for your responses. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Goff?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, yeah, I should say, I was remiss not thanking you for the work you put into this. It's not only, I know it's a lot of hard work, but you present it in such a way that's very clear. So I appreciate that. And I just wanted to say again, that if you're looking for some ideas about what to prioritize, I would say the regional effort, some kind of regional collaboration, that's where a lot of energy, I mean, we've been doing it all along. I don't think we should give up on that. And then, as someone else said, education. And then, of course, we always do want to listen to our residents. But as Councilmember Kondo pointed out, it's really tough to step up and say, these people need help, and I'm willing to take the chance that everything's going to be fine, having them, somewhere near me. And I would never say that Scout Park is something that we just decide on without any resident input. So, I mean, when I said that, I thought it was a good location. That was without talking to residents, and we certainly do plan to do that.
Yes.
So that's, if that's enough input to tell you how to move forward, that's what I have to say on that.
Yes, I am hearing that we want to prioritize the regional approaches, continuing to do so, and providing more listening and educational sessions with our own residents. Is that good?
Yeah? Oh, Councilmember Kondo?
Well, I would add not only just our own residents, but also key stakeholders, surrounding cities. And I think Councilmember Long and Brown hit on it, and I'll just reemphasize this point if it's not patently clear. The dinner that we had with the county said, we're washing our hands of this. We want the cities to figure it out. And to me, that's a big head scratcher. It's like, What? Really? You want the cities to spend time and energy? I almost took it as a challenge. That's why I said, there's got to be somebody that has the moral courage. And I think that moral courage resides here. We have this. I think the cities have. And if the counties aren't willing to do it, let's come together as cities and figure out a solution and then have the county pay for it. Well, it's the adage, other people's money.
Sure.
Our idea, others people's money. So that's where I'm coming from on this initiative. So, and also I do want to echo, thank you for all the hard work.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to also prioritize the potential of a site in unincorporated Adams County. You said you've been challenged with it, and we led the way, and we really, I feel like that is where I can truly imagine something that's what you're expressing here. So I like to look at that too, not only, just here in our area of North Glen and Westminster, it's what else possible throughout Adams County, but I feel that southern area would be prime because there is the real estate. We really don't have, that's what we're lacking here in our area. And, we're all pretty much built up in this corridor of the north, so also prioritize that, see what other options are possible there.
Councilmember Brown, final thought.
Sorry if I got cranky. I'm just very passionate about that one too. So on my wish list would be that Adams County builds something like they're doing in Aurora, where there are mental health services, and they can, as far as I'm concerned, they can come out and request support from the cities and money from the cities, but they would make a bigger difference if they could take something on like that. I know Chaz had mentioned that they weren't looking at something like that, but as a future conversation piece, maybe we could bring it up again.
Yeah, I think that's in the city that Alicia provided at the
From the AdCog dinner.
Yeah, from the AdCog dinner. I think the Aurora campus is something that Adams County is funding. I don't know if it technically lies in Adams County or just on the border of,
Yeah.
but that is something that we will be looking at. What part do we get to partake in that Aurora campus that they're building?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for your time tonight.
Have a good night.
Public invited to be heard. I don't see anybody. Is there anyone on the phone? I don't think so either. Okay, moving on. I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to section 4.5D of the city charter for legal consultation and advice regarding the police department workplace assessment follow-up.
So moved.
Second.
Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote. It will in a second. Please vote. That's it.
Give me a minute, Joanna. I buried it. I got it, Bubba.
I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
We will adjourn to the executive session. Okay, you've got a few minutes while they break down technology.